Welcome to the Obsessed with Real Estate show. I'm your host, Alana George, and I am obsessed with real estate. Today, I have Austin Lagrusa with Simple Real Estate, and he shares his passion with us for helping people. He and his wife are on a mission to turn 1,000 renters into homeowners without using banks at all. You heard that right. Without using banks. So this is so hot right now. It's called seller financing, and he dives right into it, sharing with us how he got started with that and how he structured that, how he's in, sounds like over 20 units now that he owns with his wife without having any money in these houses. So it's really cool. And it's definitely giving me some shiny object syndrome. Maybe it'll inspire you. And he gives great advice for the newbie investor today. So listen to that. He also shares with us his 4x4 strategy for growing his Instagram following. Super cool. I don't know if I could stick that out for a year, but he's doing big things. I'm so excited to share with you this interview today with Austin Lagrusa. Let's go. I'm here with Austin Lagrusa with Simple Real Estate, and I'm super excited to have you on. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Great. So you and I met actually through Elsa Nguyen, who's on one of the earlier episodes. I think she's like episode 3. And she introduced us because you were speaking at one of our meetups. Do you remember that? A while ago?
I do. I drove to Cupertino, which I don't normally do. And that was a little bit of a trek, but had a blast with you guys and all the other agents and brokers and investors in the room. Met some really good people who I saw 2 of them at a meetup about a month ago. They drove up from San Jose a little closer to me and got to see them. So I loved it.
That is so cool. Remind me, what area are you in again?
So I'm in Solano County. So
Solano.
we're about 2 hours maybe north of Cupertino. So a little bit of a drive.
That is a lot of bit of a drive. Oh my goodness. I don't think that I knew inviting you then that you were coming from so
All
far.
good.
So
All good. I love it. Anytime I can get in a room with other investors and share what we're working on, I get all my energy from that.
So I agree. And let's jump into that. You were definitely passionate about it. You had a really great presentation. It was having to do with seller financing, going direct to seller. So we'll jump into a bit about that because that is so hot right now. And I know thinking about doing that excites me. I'm a real estate agent. I talk to sellers all the time, right? So it's not out of an ordinary, but talking to a seller as an investor sounds like a whole different ball game. So I'm excited to talk about that. But first, I want to jump into your background. Tell us who you are and what led you to real estate.
Yeah. So no one in my family is involved in real estate. So me being involved in real estate is actually a lot for people to adapt to. I coached basketball for a long time. I coached high school basketball in the city, and I did a lot of coaching through youth sports and everything. I've been in sales for a long time at some bigger financial institutions. And so that's most of what I did. I actually got into real estate kind of on accident. We tried to buy a house in 2019 when my wife was pregnant with our 3rd son. And I work for a nonprofit. That's my full-time job. She was going on leave. And so when we applied, the banker said we actually wouldn't qualify to buy a house. And he told us that while my wife was sitting right next to me and like totally just magnified all the insecurities I already had as a husband and as a dad. And so
so much rejection. There's something about buying your home when you have your family. It's the American dream. And then thinking that you're moving towards it and then just hearing that no, I'm sure it was like a door slammed in your face. So tell me that you went to a different lender, and you went down the list and found somebody that said yes.
No, not at all. Not at all. I crawled up into a little hole and, cried away. And it was honestly, I would say in all of my years, that was probably the hardest rejection I've ever experienced. And it's just the layers, right? As a husband, there's this weird thing that men have where we feel like we have to solve all the problems and we have to be the one who provides everything. And so for someone to
Mhm.
tell you in front of your spouse that you can't do it, oh, it was a huge blow to the ego. Um, and so what we actually did was I went to Google because I'm a millennial and I asked Google and I said, how many people get denied? Is this normal? And I learned from the data that in 2019, I think it was 11.6% of all mortgage applications were denied for various reasons. One of the biggest
Mhm.
ones were student debt, but it could be a million other things. And so we got into real estate because we felt that wasn't fair to tell people in America that they can't buy a house. And so we
Mhm.
came up with this company, Simple Real Estate, because we want to keep real estate simple for everyone. And our kind of vision statement is to help 1,000 home renters become homeowners over the next 25 years without banks. And so that's what we started
Amazing.
doing. We Google searched and YouTubed every single video and every podcast and every blog you could find about how to buy houses without banks. I didn't know that you could do it. I felt
Mhm.
like there
Yeah.
had to have been a way. I was like, oh, there's got to be a way. We've got to figure this out. And lo and behold, there's like a million different ways to cut it. And that's how we got started.
That is amazing. And kudos to you for pivoting in that direction of, oh, I'll figure it out, right? Without you,
Yep.
Mr. Bank,
Yep.
right? Whereas, I asked you, please tell me you went and found a solution because, like, when I first talked to a lender, I got a no as well. I was saving all my pennies. I thought I was doing everything right. I was, working in the service industry and claiming all my tips. So paying lots of taxes because I got to show this income so I can buy. And when I got that no, I just crumbled. I thought I was doing everything right. And then of course, now looking back, I could have invested out of state. I could have,
Yeah.
well, with 3 kids, it's a little different. I was
Yep.
single, right? It was a little bit more doable. There's so many other ways that I could have pivoted had I had more information or that drive, right? Like
Yeah.
you had, they're like, I'm going to figure this out. I have to. How can I do this without the bank, which is not talked about normally? We get into this very, I don't know, like structured or boring thought process that we're taught that you just get a mortgage
Yep.
from a bank. And if that
Yep.
doesn't work, then you don't get a house.
Exactly.
So I have to hear more, obviously. From there, you're figuring this out. You went to YouTube University,
Yep.
and then what?
Yeah. So between YouTube videos, blog posts, and everything, everyone would talk about a real estate attorney. And so, again, I have no sense of anything real estate, no financial literacy. I didn't know that I could have gone to another bank and tried to get a loan. Like, that's how little I knew. I didn't know
Mhm.
that there was other lenders I could talk to. I knew nothing. And so everyone's talking about a real estate attorney. So I just Google searched real estate attorney Bay Area because we're in the Bay Area. And I called, I think it was 4 pages of offices that were listed.
Wow.
And my calls would sound like this. I would get on the phone, they would answer. I'd say, hi, my name is Austin. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I want to try to buy a house without a bank. Can you help me? And a lot of people laughed at me. A lot of
Yeah,
people laughed at me, but I learned this.
absolutely.
You only need one person to believe in you. And so
Yeah.
there was one guy who heard what I said and was like, all right, I think I know what you're trying to get at. It's called seller financing. And we have paperwork to go through the transactions. And that really gave me the confidence to go out there and find these deals that I had no clue were there to buy houses without banks.
Amazing. So maybe some of your sales background made you comfortable because you're pretty much cold calling these attorneys, right? That takes a certain something inside you. Have you always had this, I'm going to figure it out, everything is figure outable personality trait?
No, not at all. In my house, especially in an Asian household, for some reason, there's this weird thing about asking for help. It's very
Mm.
strange, especially when you have parents who are immigrants or family who are
Mhm.
immigrants and they just kind of dug deep and went after it and didn't complain and didn't ask for help. So I actually grew up never asking for help. And so for me to jump on the phone and can you guys help me? It was a bit of a hurdle to get over, but for me, the thing that drove me to keep going or to push me was even to this day, I can still remember the feeling of being in front of that banker and him telling me that I couldn't buy a house. I still remember that. And
Yeah.
our desire is that no family ever has to go through that again.
Yeah.
No family should be told, no, you can't buy a house. And so that honestly is what pushed me and drove me to keep going. And then here's the reality. There's always stuff you don't know. You're always going to need help. And the faster you learn that, the better off you're going to be.
Absolutely. I'm a recovering know-it-all. And
I'm still battling it.
yeah. So it's a hard pill to swallow every
It is.
day, right?
Yep.
Stuff that I don't know and that I need help with, and everything's figure outable. And just
Mhm.
because I don't know about it, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist.
Right.
And that's
Absolutely.
something to get over in itself.
Mhm.
But so take me to your first deal. Let's hear
Yep.
about that.
So attorney told me about seller financing. And so I did the Zillow searches. I knew I could search a keyword in Zillow, so seller financing, but I was actually
Mhm.
scared to call the listing because I didn't know what to say. I was actually really nervous. And so I skipped that part. I said, forget Zillow. I'm not going to do that because I've never talked to an agent before. Like, they're going to laugh at me. They're going to tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. So I found a different alternative, which was Facebook Marketplace. And I figured with Facebook
Mhm.
Marketplace, I could see the person who was posting an ad and I could see what they're like and kind of work my way up.
Humanize.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just searched, honestly, I just searched seller financing in Facebook Marketplace. And I picked
Wow.
the city that we were wanting to invest in. And I learned our own criteria for picking that market through, again, a million other YouTube videos and blogs. And so we ended up investing in Clarksville, Tennessee, which is about 30 minutes northwest of Nashville. And so we searched in Marketplace seller financing, and a post in Marketplace was literally what we were looking for. Seller financing deal. It was a wholesaler who posted the listing, and he seemed like a cool guy just based on his
Yeah.
Facebook profile, however you judge that.
Yeah.
But I just responded to his ad. We jumped on the phone. The negotiations took about, I think it was about 2 weeks for us to figure out all the terms and everything. And then I closed within 30 days of that contact with my first rental property, seller financing, no banks.
Okay. Time out. If you're listening to or watching this and you did not pick up on that amazing tip, like pause it. I wrote it down right here on my notepad. It's that you literally typed in seller financing on Facebook Marketplace. That is not something that I would think about doing. And we have these stories that we tell, and in my head, I'm like, why would somebody put that on Facebook Marketplace? Like, that
Yeah.
doesn't even make sense. Why would somebody do that? Like, nobody's
Yeah.
going to do that. So why even try? But you did it. You thought of doing it. And there's no negative consequences of just typing in seller financing in the
Exactly.
area that you're looking,
Yep.
right? There's low risk of
Mhm.
looking this way.
Yep.
So you got your first after negotiating for a couple weeks and
Yep.
closed in 30 days.
Yep.
Can you go into the specifics of how that financing worked? What did you end
Yeah.
up saying that worked? Tell me details, everything.
Yeah. So message back and forth, got on the phone with the wholesaler. He was actually new. He was a new wholesaler. And so it was perfect
Mm,
for me because I didn't know what I was doing either. And so we were actually
yeah,
able to get on the phone with the title company and work things out together. This is like a
cool.
unicorn deal. This isn't how all of them go. But it
Mhm.
just so happened that he was newer, and I could tell just because I work with people a lot. Like, this is literally my job, is working with people. So I can read things fairly well. And I could just tell in his voice that he was newer. And so I just asked him, I said, hey, man, how many wholesale deals have you done? And he laughed and he's like, man, this is my first one. Can you tell? And we laughed together. And I was like, well, this is my first rental. So let's figure it out together. And we
Yeah.
just kind of worked our way through it. Basically, what the house was, and we still have it to this day, it was
Mhm.
a 3-bed, 1-bath with a bonus room, which was a converted garage. Really nice house near a decent school in a great neighborhood. And the purchase price was a total of $130,000, which us in the Bay Area were like, whatever. There's no way you could buy a room for 130,000. Um,
No, that's like barely a deposit, like
yeah,
initial deposit or anything.
exactly.
Yeah.
So $130,000 total purchase price. Between what the seller wanted and what the wholesaler was asking for, we had to give them $14,000 at closing. And then our interest rate and the seller actually put this out there, we didn't have to negotiate the interest rate, was 3.25%. And so a really good deal that the
Yeah.
seller, he has a bunch of rentals in the area. So he knew what he was doing.
What was his circumstance that would allow him to even offer seller financing? Why was that appealing to
Yeah.
him?
Good question. And I hope this helps someone because right now is a very interesting time in the market where you can target a specific demographic that is on the verge of retirement. So he was a little older.
Yeah.
I think he was in his early 60s at that time. And he had, I think it was like 40 rentals in the area. And he just
Wow.
wanted to start letting them go so he didn't have to manage it. And he wanted to still make money on the side. And so what seller financing allowed him to do was to be the bank. So he's collecting money, but he's not
Mhm.
responsible for the management or the maintenance of the property. And so that's what
Mhm.
he wanted. He wanted the passive cash flow at that time
Right.
without any responsibility. And so a guy like me who's looking for this opportunity just so happened to find that guy who's saying, I'm getting ready to retire. I don't want to manage all these properties, but I still want some income coming in on the side.
So next question, have you bought everything else that he's been selling? Because if he had a bunch of properties, right? Just take them all.
So that was the goal. That was the goal. But he knew that I was newer. And he actually
Mhm.
sold in that first year after I bought it. I think he sold, it was like half of his portfolio he sold on seller
Oh,
financing
wow.
to another investor who was a little more experienced and had the proof of concept, which was unfortunate, but I learned a ton from that deal nonetheless. And I couldn't be
Right.
happier with it.
Everything happens for a reason,
That's what
right?
they say.
Yeah. That's what I hear. So that sounds beautiful. And I love this fearless approach. You originally went to get a loan for yourself, for your
Yep.
primary. Couldn't do that. But then you ended up buying a rental first instead.
Yep.
A lot of people in the Bay Area, right? I'm a full-time residential realtor and I grew up here. So I have a lot of friends that are from here that are seeing these prices, they're astronomical. So I get this question quite often. Should I keep saving to someday be able to buy a house here? Or should I use that money to buy a rental elsewhere and start getting the cash flow? Obviously we know which approach you took, but
Yes.
but why? What was your perspective with that?
Yes. So it went from us wanting to be homeowners to then us having like a mission, like a passion project. And so it was no
Okay.
longer about us finding a house to own. It was about helping families who
Mhm.
can't, for whatever reason, qualify for a loan with the bank, helping them find a home. Now, I'll tell you
Right,
this.
which we haven't even got into that part yet because you
Right.
got your rental in the story, but there
Yep.
hasn't been anybody being helped yet.
Yeah.
Get to that. Go ahead.
Yep. But for us, philosophy, like this is 5 years later, and we still don't own the home that we live in. And we've grown our
Wow.
portfolio and we have
Yeah.
quite a bit of rentals. I don't like giving exact numbers, but I'll say this. The average person in America cannot count how many rentals we own on their fingers and toes. So we own more than that, but we don't own the house that we live
Okay.
in.
Interesting choice.
Especially now, obviously the market has shifted 2020, 2021. If there was an opportunity, we would have jumped at it. But now, obviously the market shifted. It's a little more expensive to own a home. And we fell into a great deal with this rental. We pay significantly under market rent. Our
Mhm.
landlords are incredible. Like I can call them and say a light bulb is out and they'll come and replace it for me. It's the best scenario in the world. And granted, I know everyone's going to say, but you're just building their equity and you're throwing this money away. But if I were to get a mortgage right now, we'd be paying twice as much. And so it's kind of,
Okay.
you've got to weigh kind of where you are, what your goals are, and how it might affect you or your family.
Right. I think it's Grant Cardone who says not to buy a primary residence.
I'm in good
Do
company then.
you? Yeah, yeah, I know. And I'm always like, screw you, right? Like, I'm going to buy my primary. Don't you know I
Yeah.
have kids? Like, this is important to me in setting
Yeah.
roots and foundation. But
Yep.
we're building equity. Luckily, here where we live, I have a lot of market appreciation
Yep.
that I can use.
Yep.
But really, is it an investment? There's no cash flow. It's kind of an gray area. I appreciate hearing your perspective on that. And it sounds like what you have going is working.
Right. Exactly. And everyone's situation, everyone's story is going to be different. You just have to be firm on what you want and what works for you. And you
Yeah.
kind of put the blinders on and ignore what everyone else says. And you know what the right
Yes.
decision is.
Yeah. So now let's hop back into this
Yep.
story. You bought this home out of state, and how are you helping people with it?
Yeah. So again, back to the vision statement of what we want to do: help 1,000 families become homeowners from home renters without banks. And so what
Yes.
we did was we made sure that the home was rent ready. We used a lot of relationships that we built over social media. And when I say we, it's just my wife and I. We're not like a equity group or a fund or anything. It's just us. But we
Yeah.
built a lot of relationships through social media, especially in that market. And we would pay people like $50. Hey, can you go check on the house? Can you put a lockbox in the house? Put the key in there. Like, can you go mow the grass? Like, literally from
Wow.
afar, we would do this thousands of miles
Yeah.
away. And what we ended up doing was, once it was rent ready, we posted it on Facebook Marketplace and we posted
My
it as
favorite.
rent to own. And we had, gosh, I don't know how many applications that came through, but there were a lot of families. We saw a big need for it, that families wanted to feel the kind of the pride of home ownership. And for whatever
Mhm.
reason, they couldn't go through a traditional lender. And so they went through us. And so we have a family in there right now from the very first day that we marketed it. Jamario, his wife, and his daughter, they applied. I'm My wife a little less than me. I'm a teddy bear. I love hearing people's stories. You can sway me so easily with a great story. And I'm a big
Yeah.
believer in the underdog. I love watching Rocky. I always
Yeah.
want the underdog to win. And so on paper, this family did not look like a good candidate. Not at
Mhm.
all. Some people would look at it today and say I'm stupid for even signing this agreement with them. But I don't care. I know what the vision is that we're going after. And so,
Yeah.
just hearing their story and what they're going after and what they wanted to do with their lives, we ended up signing an agreement with them. And so here's what the agreement looks like, because the kind of rent to own space, the creative financing space, is a little vague for people. So what we do is called a lease option, which is basically you're renting it and then you have the option to purchase it. And that
Mhm.
option to purchase it is based on a price that we agree on today, even if you purchase it in 5 years, which is what we did with them. And so we said, today, I bought it for 130. We're going to decide on 185. That's going to be your purchase price in 5 years, which right now that house is probably worth about 230, 240, based on the comps
Okay. So
that have sold.
it would be a good buy for them.
Yes. Yep. And so
Yeah.
all they have to do is they have to come in with a down payment or a non-refundable deposit. And what we do to cover our expenses is we match their deposit with how much we needed to spend to get into the deal. And so their
Mhm.
deposit was 14,000, which essentially means we got into this house for $0. Our
Okay.
mortgage at 3.25% was $600.24. And we charged them $1,250 per month. That price stays the same for 5 years. It doesn't go
Okay.
up.
Wow. This
So,
is a good deal for them.
100%.
Yeah. And
100%.
you're still making money because you make
Yep.
that spread, and none of that goes towards their purchase. That's all for you,
Yep.
right?
Correct. Yep. And with that, also, all maintenance and repairs are deferred to the tenant. So I'm not responsible for any repairs or maintenance on the house. That's all on them, right? This is them having the benefit of experiencing home ownership, right? It's
Mhm.
kind of like a test drive, is how I explain it to people. You get to test drive home ownership. And then you have that
Yeah.
option of saying, yes, I want to do it. Or you have the option of saying, it's not for me. And
This is
so
not
they're,
for me fixing all these things and all these problems. 'Cause God
yep,
knows the minute you buy a house, things
everything
break.
breaks, everything. And so
Yeah. So,
they're walking into a great deal.
yes, one question that pops up that I'm sure you get all the time is that rental amount that you're charging them at a premium,
Yes.
having the option?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Okay.
it was. When we
Okay.
signed that agreement with them, it was 25% above what market rents were.
Okay.
Today, it's about even. And then
Okay. It's about
their
market
term is
today.
going to end next year. And by then, it'll be under market rates. So
Yeah. Do you think that they're going to buy it?
I hope so. That's the whole reason we do this. Two things that
Yeah.
I didn't say. What's unique with what we do is the first is if you sign into our program and you sign an agreement to get into one of our houses, you have to go through Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. You have to. It's part of our paperwork. You have to understand financial literacy. It's not just about me selling a home and making a profit. It's me helping a family, not only for
Yeah.
them, but so they can teach their kids how to manage their finances. And then the second part of
Wow.
that is my wife and I pay out of pocket for them to work with a credit repair program.
Wow. This is very much high level, conscious, helping the world real estate investing, which is the
Absolutely.
opposite of what like the landlord reputation is.
Yes,
So thank you
absolutely.
for that.
We're all looked at as slumlords, literally, like everyone, no matter what you do, no matter how great of a landlord you are, we're all looked at as slumlords.
Yeah, yeah. There's Austin, the slumlord.
Yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Charging these poor people. That is really cool though. So how did you go through Dave Ramsey's program,
I did. We did
financial
the debt
literacy?
snowball. That helped us a lot. And
Good. That's
then
cool.
I've taught some of the workshops and the classes from Dave Ramsey. So I think
Amazing.
I know real estate world, it's hit or miss with Dave Ramsey. I know sometimes he catches a lot of flack for the things he teaches, and I get it. But Dave Ramsey serves a very specific demographic in our country that could benefit greatly from following some very basic financial literacy steps that aren't usually taught to people.
And it's a very large demographic.
Yep,
That
absolutely.
being said, I know Robert Kiyosaki talks about that because, like you said, Dave Ramsey isn't as popular in the real estate investing world because of his outlook on debt,
Yep,
right? But it's almost like the messages are to two different groups
right.
altogether. So it's like a foundation, and then from there you get into the investing world and leverage.
Yep.
So that is really cool. I love that. I think I've listened to, I'd like to say read, but I think I've listened to like two of Dave Ramsey's books. So I'm not like a
I think they're
huge
great.
hater. Yeah, well, obviously you do, but I think he has a lot of great principles. Okay, moving on from there, you bought that home and then you said, let's do it again. This worked out. And then you just rinsed and repeated because you were $0 in.
Exactly. When we decided we were going to invest in real estate, we had picked 5 different markets that we would like to invest in. And so Clarksville was one
Okay,
of them.
five. Five, that's
Oh,
not really narrowing it down in a lot of people's books.
I know. I just realized that when I said it, someone's probably watching this and going, wait, you can pick 5? Everyone's been
You
telling me
narrowed
1.
it to 5.
In comparison with
What'd you narrow it from? Like 50?
how many major metro markets there are in the country, then
Okay.
yes, narrowing it down to 5. I know. Everyone always says, pick one market. I can't. It's not in me to just pick one. And so we said, we picked 5, and we basically said, wherever the deals come, because we know these markets and we've done our research, we know that they're going to be reasonably good investments. And so after that first one, then we did the same thing, seller financing, Facebook Marketplace, started searching everywhere. Then we got into Zillow and Redfin, seller financing. I built up enough courage to start calling agents. That was scary
Mhm.
too. Nothing happened there. And then our second deal actually came from social media as we were kind of documenting our journey of exploring seller financing and different ways to buy houses. Then someone saw it and had a lead and introduced me to another seller. And that was in Northeast Ohio. It was a portfolio. That portfolio we still have. That was, oh my gosh, that was 8 properties, 10 doors that we bought
Mhm.
via seller financing as well.
Oh, beautiful. That is my favorite market, Northeast Ohio.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, great cash flow there.
Yes.
That's where my husband's family is from. Well, my family
Nice.
now, right? And I love that market. So that is so cool. 8. So you went from buying one to then buying a portfolio.
Yeah. So in
Wow.
10 months, here's how crazy it is. And this is just, I want to be very clear. This is my personality style and how I do business. And this doesn't work for everyone. And it doesn't have to.
Mhm.
I'm a ready, fire, aim guy. And so I just go and like clean up the mess behind me as we're moving along. But it's because I have really high risk tolerance. And not everyone does. And that's okay. And so if you're watching this, just know you don't have to do what I did. You do whatever fits for you and what's right for you. But in our first 10 months of investing, we got that first one in Clarksville. We bought the portfolio in Ohio, and then we bought another one in Clarksville. So we bought 12 properties in the first 10 months of investing, all seller financing.
I love this. I love this so much. And I too, I just take action and then clean it up after the fact. I'm like, jump, and hopefully I can assemble the parachute on the way down. And so your wife was on board with this the whole time?
Yeah. So here's my wife's number one rule. It's the only rule she has. She's not as involved in the operations, but her number one rule is don't lose us money.
Okay. Pretty simple.
That's her
Yeah, I
involvement.
like it. She just checks in on it. Hey, still got it?
Yep.
Still got it? Okay,
Yep.
good.
And then I run every deal by her. I just let her know kind of what we're looking at, what's on the table,
Mhm.
what we're looking to close, how much money we're looking to raise. And unless it's anything that is kind of crazy, she's usually good
Mhm.
with it.
So it sounds like you kind of narrowed down a bit of a buy box.
Yep.
I've heard that term used, like it's parameters of what you're looking for.
Yes.
So it would make sense if you brought something to her and it's within these parameters that you've already decided on, then it's kind of a no-brainer, right?
Yeah. Our buy
All
box
right.
is really simple because, right, it goes back to what we're after to help place families in homes that they can own. So we're always thinking
Mhm.
about, that young family, 20 somethings, 30 somethings that have kids. What kind of
Yeah.
houses do they want to live in? And that's the houses
Mhm.
that we go after.
Yeah. That's really cool that that's kind of the demographic that you're targeting to help, because I know in our area, it almost feels like people have missed the mark with their life because they've grown into a family that needs a single family home but can't afford it. They can afford maybe a 1 bedroom condo. And so they're kind of in this rental limbo,
Mhm.
right? Of needing something that's way too like unattainable
Yeah.
through the bank. So it's like, well, you should have bought something, 10 years ago and
Right.
had foresight,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
Go back
Thanks for
in
telling me
time.
now.
Yeah. So that's really cool that
Yep,
that's who you're helping, because there's such a pent up need in for that group. And I see
yep,
it all the time. So kudos to you. Good job. And so you kind of talked a little bit about your current portfolio, not getting specific on the numbers, but it sounds like you're doing pretty well.
yeah.
And I wanted to hear, at this size that you're at, what are your current challenges as an investor?
My greatest challenge right now is that I'm competent at a lot of things. I'm great at very few things. And the ability to find people who are great at the things that I'm just competent at is the greatest challenge right now. I love building teams. It's part of what I do for work. I love delegating tasks. But in real estate, we're a small demographic in the world. There's not a lot of people who are good at property management. There's not a lot of good of people who are good at asset management. There's not a lot of good people who are competent in, accounting or a tax strategy for real estate. And so the greatest challenge for me right now is that my competency in different things actually limits how much I'm able to release and delegate. Right. So here's a very simple example. We're in 5 different states right now. And so we have technically five property managers. I'm competent to manage all five of them, but I know there's someone who's like really good at it. And because I'm so competent in it, I think, oh, I can do it. I don't have to bring someone else in, even though it takes time away from me doing what I'm really good at, which is sales. And so that's
Right.
probably my greatest challenge right now is reorganizing our structure so that I'm only spending time on what I'm really good at and then letting others run with what they're really good at.
Right. And let them run with what they're really good at and you're only good at.
Yep. Absolutely. Yep.
That takes a lot of self-awareness.
Yes.
And I love that you acted like you're like, how do I say this? And then you put it so eloquently. Mm, yeah, definitely in sales. So yeah, so much to unravel there. I feel I super relate to that. I feel like that with like a lot of aspects in my life, right? I'm doing all of these things. Well, for me, I'm just overwhelmed, but none of them like amazing, right? Because I got to do all of them,
Yep.
right? If you pick one of those subjects and that was your passion, right? You could probably get even better. You're
Right.
naturally good at other things. So
Yeah. I think my thing would be, I tell a lot of investors, newer investors will message me and what do you do? What have you learned over the years? If I could do three things in real estate, they would be raise money, find deals, and speak at events. If I could just do those three things and then hand off everything else, I think I would be a lot more pleasant at home for my wife and my kids. And I think I just
yeah.
overall be more energized. And so we're working on that. I have one person that I'm onboarding right now who's going to help manage kind of I don't want to introduce new words, but pulling our lists for who we market to
Yeah.
and filtering all of that information out so I know who to call. So
Mhm.
she's getting onboarded to do that. I have another person that we onboarded a month ago, and she's helping more with strategy because
Yeah.
I'm a big visionary. I can see it. It's just slowing down to put the pieces together, like, is frustrating for me.
Ooh.
And
Have
so
you read Rocket Fuel?
I have, and that's how this all came about. That's literally how it
That's
all
a
came
good
about.
book. Yeah, if anyone's listening to this and hasn't read Rocket Fuel, I sometimes send that out as a gift
Yep.
for anybody in partnerships. It's a great business book.
Yep.
And I tried to get my husband to take the quiz and I
Yeah,
sent it
yeah.
to him and he did not because he's a visionary. And I feel like it, anyways, I'm semi-visionary. I didn't even fall in. I was like so half and half, like just heavier on visionary. But if you're like, I identify that's me, like, yeah, you
Well,
need an integrator.
so that's a challenge, right? I think you and I probably might have similar scores. So I actually got a 92 on visionary and a
Mhm.
78 on integrator. So it's not like I'm bad at that.
Yes.
And that's the challenge,
Yes.
is I am competent at it. And so I'm like,
Yes.
I don't have to delegate that because I can do it.
Mhm.
But then it
It
takes
almost
time
makes it
away.
harder. It almost makes it
Yep.
harder when you don't clearly fall into integrator or a visionary because
100%.
I have some integrator tendencies. I'm
Yep.
more of an integrator than my husband, but I'm still not
Yeah,
happy about having to do our taxes.
absolutely. Yep.
It's too fine of details and
Exactly
it's
my
me.
point.
Yeah, yeah. So it is hard to let that stuff go and
Yeah.
delegate and recognize that. Wow. Yeah, love it. So that is a huge challenge that sounds like you're working on, and your business is going to skyrocket once you can narrow down and do those three things. That is
Yep.
so important. That's cool that you can recognize that. And if anyone's listening and you can't think of what their three magic things that they're a superstar, what their superpowers are, right? Maybe ask somebody around you what they think your superpowers would be. Think about what comes easily. What do you enjoy doing with work, right? Any suggestions from you, Austin?
Yeah, I think I would gauge it. How would I gauge it? I wouldn't gauge it necessarily on what you're good at. I would gauge it on what energizes you and what drains you. Because what you're good at could actually drain you. You could be really good at it, but it could be draining for you. And for me, I'd rather do things that energize me, and maybe I'm okay at them, but they energize me, rather than doing
Yeah.
something I'm good at, but it just drains me. And that's me zooming out and knowing that when I go home, my wife and my kids are waiting for me. And I don't want to go home drained. I want to go home
Mm,
energized.
yeah. And then being an acceptance that there are other people who
Yes.
get energized from the things that drain me.
Yep.
Because I get
Absolutely.
this guilt, like I'm offloading this terrible thing to somebody.
But they're like, give it to me, please.
Yes, exactly. That's like this thing I have to constantly get over. So that is really cool. Thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
with us. You kind of already went into your advice for newbies, But is there anything else you can think of, like how to get started? Someone's hearing this, they're very inspired by you and your path and what you're doing. What's your advice to them to just get the ball rolling?
Yeah, man, that's a tough. I would probably go, my number one piece of advice would be to go to a local meetup. That'd probably be my number one. Go to a local meetup and find people. You just have to get around the conversation. You don't have to
Mhm.
put pressure on yourself to do a deal. You just have to get around the conversation. Get around people who are talking about it, because you're going to learn that the world of real estate investing is very small, right? There's like, even real estate investing is even a tiny part of the real estate world. Like, real estate
Yeah.
investing is such a small niche. And so I can guarantee you, if you jump in and you say, I want to get involved in real estate, and you start telling your family and friends, they're going to think you're crazy. And so you want to get
Mm.
around people who can kind of affirm what you think that you want to do, get some encouragement around you, and get some voices who can help guide you. I'll also offer this: if you're wanting to get into real estate and you're an introvert, because this is a lot of people, introverts hearing go to a local meetup cringe. They're like, why? Why
Forget
do I
about that because I'm an extrovert. I'm like, yes,
same?
go. I'll see you there. Let's chat. I want to eat some donuts and
Yep,
bagels
yep,
and just
yep,
mingle. This energizes me,
yep.
right? Public speaking, bring it on,
Oh yeah.
right? But
But
I've,
introverts are
you
so
know,
different. And honestly, I would say introverts, just in my experience, I think there's more introverts who want to get involved in real estate investing than there are extroverts. And so for an introvert, I know the idea of going to a meetup can be intimidating, and that's fine. You can also leverage things like social media, where there's not as much, in your face engagement, but you can message people, right? I respond to every single DM I get. And I'm not like Grant Cardone famous on Instagram, but I get 10 to 15 a week of people who are like, how do I get started? What's your advice? And I respond to literally every single DM, because I remember when I first got started and I used to blow people's messages up just hoping that they would get back to me. And I remember how much help I got. And so if you're an extrovert, or if you're an introvert, how would I say, if you're an extroverted introvert, which some people can be around people, go to a local meetup. 100%. If you're an introvert,
Mhm.
leverage things like social media or even Zoom calls or mastermind groups. The main thing is
Mhm.
get around the conversation. Start
Okay.
normalizing the idea of investing in real estate in your head. And from there, you're going to figure out what the next steps are for you.
I love that. Just get around it, normalize it. That is so powerful. I feel like I get into this thing where I'm around it so much that I'm like, everybody on earth is investing in real estate now.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there's not even any room for me.
Yep.
Everybody's doing it, not realizing. And this is what social media does too, is it like shows you only people within your scope of
Yeah.
interest. So,
That's really interesting. The social media piece. Here's something I just recently did, and I think it was the right timing. It wouldn't serve me early on, but it was the right timing for this. I had an event. I hosted an event for investors, and I brought out this guy who does digital marketing, social media. And his presentation, he said, if you're established in your business or in your niche or in your industry, you need to stop following other people in your industry online. And I was like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. And then he started explaining it, because all you're going to see is your competition, and you're going to be either
mhm,
influenced or intimidated by what they're saying. And so just
yes.
recently, I started unfollowing so many people. And honestly, I feel like I can finally think again, because I'm not
Wow.
so inundated with real estate investing and invest in this, do this strategy, go to this market, this much money, you need these many doors, this big of a portfolio.
Mhm.
And I can literally think,
Wow, that is so powerful. You kind of just gave me a bit of like an aha moment because people talk about going on social media and seeing other people's lives and having FOMO. And I think I don't really do that. I'm so happy with my life, but I see
oh, we
other
do.
real estate investors and wow, she just launched a course. Oh, I'm so jealous. And she's like speaking at an event and doing this. I'm like, I should be doing that. And why aren't I? And like, who
Oh
was
yeah.
I to think that I didn't get this like FOMO. It's just not in the area that I
Right.
assume, right? Like, oh, people going on vacations, good for them.
Right.
I'm so
Yep.
happy for them, right? Doing stuff like that. And that's so interesting. So I will ponder about that. But I also want to set the record straight because you said it's not like you have that big of a profile or anything. But I want everybody listening and watching to know that you have over 10,000 followers on Instagram. So you're
That
not
was work.
noteworthy.
That was years of work. And I'll tell you this, I'm just going to throw this in. You didn't even ask how I got my social media started, but I'm going to throw this out there anyway. I would spend Friday mornings, and this is what I do. This is part of my weekly rhythm. I would call it 4x4. Friday was the biggest one. So it's 4 days a week, spend 4 days a week reaching out to 4 people. And all you're doing is, it's not even adding value. All you're doing is engaging with their content. And so literally 4 days a week,
Mhm.
4 people, I would get on Instagram, I would search a hashtag, Bigger Pockets Podcast, Bay Area Real Estate,
Mhm.
and I would find a profile, 4 of them, and I would just engage with their content. And it's not like I would like something. No, I would, if they post a picture of their family, I'd be like, oh man, what a beautiful family. Where'd you guys go? I'm actually
Right.
starting a conversation. And I did this,
Mhm.
I think for the first year, I did this
Wow.
and literally just started developing relationships and documenting what I was doing. And then they would share it with other people. And that's literally how I got started in real estate. It was a grind, but now I see how like so worth it.
Right. Yeah. You are very active on there posting deals and
Yep.
opportunities. Do you get a lot of opportunities coming to you from social media?
I do. I get a lot of people sending me deals. And then what's challenging because a lot of them are newer. And so it's a lot of
Yeah.
educating them on, hey, I see that deal, but it would actually be better for an investor this way. I don't take down a lot of leads I get on social media. I use social media now as a platform to help newer investors who have the same questions that I had when I first got started.
That's amazing. That is so cool and so dedicated to have that 4x4. So 4 days a week, you'd reach out to 4 people
Yep.
on Instagram
Yep.
through various ways of hashtags and
Yep.
stuff and engage with them, leave meaningful comments,
Yep.
right? And that's really cool. The algorithm likes that. People
Yeah.
like that
Exactly.
too. It makes them feel good and
Yep.
important that somebody's commenting on their things, right? It's not all about likes. Like you actually have to talk to people on
Exactly.
there.
Yeah. And ask them questions. I would
Yeah.
rather someone ask me a question than put a bunch of flames on a post or like fire, flame, flame, flame. I'm like, that doesn't help me.
Okay. Sometimes I just don't know what to say. So I'm gonna leave you some clappy hands.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
great. Fire, fire. Thumbs up.
That is too funny.
I'm gonna think of you every time I do that.
Now you're going to
I'm
reconsider
guilty.
how you post and engage on social media. You're going to watch. I'm going to start seeing you post
Mm.
like paragraphs to people's posts.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna go into too much detail. That's if you're even following me. Who knows?
I may have
Um,
unfollowed you in that season of time.
yeah, I know. You know what? I would be so honored if you did not, if you unfollowed me, right? If my profile was
Yep.
causing you some
Yep.
kind of FOMO
Yep.
anxiety, like
You're
I'm
like,
doing
I'm doing
something
something.
right. I'm, I'm coming up.
Yep.
Watch out. Okay, Austin,
Pretty
these are the
much.
last 5 questions. We've had a
Sure.
really good time chatting, or this is probably going to be a longer episode.
Oh gosh.
My face is hurting from laughing. So we have to wrap it up pretty soon here.
Mhm.
But the last 5 questions,
Okay.
tell me something that you're currently obsessed with. And it could be real estate related. It might not be real estate related at all. Is there anything that comes to mind?
All right. This is going to sound so terrible. I'm going to
Oh, I
expose
love it.
the behind the scenes, behind the curtain. My wife and I are obsessed with watching Selling OC. Have you watched that
Really?
show
No, I
on
do not.
Netflix? It's literally a reality TV show of a real estate brokerage in Orange County.
Yes. Well,
And
it would be like selling sunset, right? If
yeah, so we already finished all of those ones. So now we're on Selling OC. We're absolutely
I
obsessed with it.
That's great. Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Something that you're obsessed
It's
with. We all get
bonding
obsessed
time.
about things. Yeah, totally. And my real estate team keeps saying I need to start watching shows like that.
That is too funny.
but I semi refuse to.
Yeah, I would resist the temptation to watch it.
I too get sucked into things as well. And I don't want to
Yeah.
be like worried about that drama. So, anyways, that is really fun. And I love that you and your wife get to share that.
Yep.
Do you have any book recommendations, mostly real estate related or business
Yeah.
related? That you
Yeah.
can
So
share?
you recommended Rocket Fuel. I would also say
Mhm.
Traction, which is Gino Wickman, which is in that same vein. And then the number one
Mhm.
book I recommend to everyone is Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And this is
Mm.
probably the best book you can read for real estate because it's not related to real estate. It's just related to understanding people. And in the real estate
Mhm.
world, you know it, everything is about people. And if you can broaden your mind to understand why people respond the way they do and able to pivot around those responses, it's going to serve you a lot better. Whether you're dealing directly with agents, sellers, working with a contractor, a property management company, emotional intelligence is the most underrated tool and skill that someone in real estate can develop.
Yeah. And I already know that you have this skill based on what you said. I take notes on things like this. Your communication with that first wholesaler, when you recognize that he was new
Yep.
and just put it out there
Yep.
and made it okay, cleared the air, because there's a lot of times that we pick up on stuff and we don't just call it out and label it. We
Yeah.
think, oh, this guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Yep.
Great. He's going to screw me over. And then we go down this snowball of proving to him that he doesn't know what he's doing. And you're messing this up. I'm doing this. When you cleared the air, you're like,
Yep.
let's do this together. And took,
Exactly.
he doesn't have to pretend like he knows what he's doing. And you don't
And
have
I
to
don't
get
have
mad
to.
at him. Yeah. And you don't have to pretend like you know what you're doing, like you're some hotshot
Yep.
big real estate investor, and you could figure it out together. And
Yep.
it just, that, what a beautiful small detail in that story that I picked up. That's from emotional intelligence, from realizing that, and then picking the route that best serves you both. That I'm
Yep.
sure it's not as easy. He didn't want to tell you that was his first.
Mm-mm. No, he
And
did not.
that's a little bit of confrontation,
Yep.
you asking that question.
Yep.
So, anyways, that was really cool. And I think that we'd be better off having more open communication like that, being
100%.
willing to ask those hard questions, right? When you recognize something, just put it out there. Don't go
Yep.
telling your friends like this guy knows nothing, right?
Right.
And
Exactly.
then it's a train, crash. So, anyways, that was really cool that you did that. And I'm sure you bring that skill into just about everything you do. So, a next question. Tell me an interesting fact about you that maybe most people wouldn't know about you. It doesn't have to be real estate related or
Yeah.
not. It could be anything that's interesting or not interesting, boring.
Okay. This will be funny. I'm going to grab something. It's a hidden skill. So,
Okay.
2 seconds. Hold on.
Okay. I'm so intrigued. A hidden skill,
So,
and he's gonna see it
what I
now.
love doing is I love playing music. I am like,
Oh my
here, let me
gosh.
see. I don't know if this is in tune. Oh, so here, like if I were to play
I
Sunday
wouldn't
morning,
know.
right? Like I could play Sunday morning from Maroon 5, but I play music a lot. My family is super musical. My grandfather, all the way to my dad, to me, and I'm teaching my kids how to play the guitar. Yeah, I love playing music.
That is so cool. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I break it out sometimes. When I was in my early 20s, I would play a lot of gigs at like cafes in the Bay Area, in the city, in Oakland, just an acoustic guitar and me.
That is so cool. I thought I recognized you. I'm just kidding.
You were the guy.
That one time, the coffee shop. No,
Yep.
that is very interesting. Although people would probably know that about you if they knew you, but maybe
Yes.
not in the real estate
Not in the real
world.
estate world.
So, Austin, next question, super exciting. What is next for you? What's on the horizon for you, for the company, just you as an individual or whole?
Yeah, one of the things that I shared with at a meetup recently that I hosted was after 5 years of investing in real estate, I actually realized that I'm not as passionate about real estate as I thought I was. And real estate is
Mm,
great and it's been good to me and I've learned a ton of things. It's obviously made us some money, it's increased our income, all of these great things. But I'm actually not passionate about it. What I'm
mm,
passionate about is helping and teaching people. And so one of the
mm.
things that we're actually pivoting into, which is what I really want to do, I want to open and operate a school for junior high and high school students to teach financial literacy, trades, basic investing, rather than standardized curriculum and testing like we've been doing for the last 100 years. And
Right.
so we're working on contracts with a couple of local high schools to start teaching financial literacy workshops. And we're hoping to get into the junior college that's here and then see if we can turn that into a class before we actually venture out and see what it looks like to start a school. I just know there's a lot more legalities around that and a lot more involved.
Yeah.
So this is kind of our first step in that direction.
That is so cool. I love that. I love everything about that and that's your mission now. That is so cool. I am curious though, circling back, is what made you realize that real estate itself wasn't what you were passionate about?
Yeah, it's it's as simple as this. I don't wake up thinking about three twos. Like I don't wake up thinking about four beds, two baths on a half acre lot. Like I don't think about real estate itself. I think about the opportunities that real estate has made available to me. And those opportunities are teaching. I love working on deals. I love sales. I love all of that. I love helping families. I really love teaching them how to manage their finances. That's what I actually love
Yeah.
doing. And it's taken me a few years to figure that out. But now that we have discovered that, we're going to make the pivot. And that's not to say that we're not going to do anything in real estate. I just know that it's not real estate specifically that is my passion. It's the fact that real estate has allowed me time to teach people, and teaching
Mhm.
is what my actual passion is.
Beautiful. I love that. You still respect real estate as a tool, but
100%.
it has given you these opportunities.
Yep.
So this is just an additional question in this last five because I'm so curious. This is already kind of in the vein of what you're doing. You've taught the Dave Ramsey, besides going
Yep.
through it, you taught
Yep.
Dave Ramsey courses. You have your rent to own renters go through the course. You're kind
Yep.
of already in that direction. What is like the biggest misinformation or what are you seeing is the biggest flaw in whom you're helping, right? In their thought process around money, the
Yeah.
philosophies. What is the biggest struggle there?
Two things. The first myth is that hard work equals success. Hard work does
Mhm.
not equal success. It does not equal cushy retirement. Hard work doesn't actually equal any of that. Hard work just means that you're working hard. You could be
Yeah.
working hard at the wrong thing forever, which a lot of people
Mhm.
do. They work hard
Yeah.
towards a pension, or they work hard towards Social Security, or they work hard towards their 401k, but that doesn't mean that they're going to be set up with wealth. And so
Mhm.
I think the biggest myth is that hard work actually equals success, because it doesn't. The second
Mhm.
myth is that, especially for families who've experienced some level of poverty, a
Mhm.
lot of them, then growing up, I was one of those families, have this idea that success or wealth isn't for them. And that's been the
Mm.
most heartbreaking thing for me to experience with these
Yeah.
families, is they'd never seen anyone in their family own a home. So their natural mind tells them that they're not going to own a home either. Or they've never
Yeah.
seen anyone, in their family buy a new car. Like these are, for a lot of us watching this, like this is like small stuff, but for a lot of these
Yeah.
families, this is a big deal. And so it's just
Mhm.
this myth that because I never experienced it, I can't attain it. And I hope to just crush those two myths.
Yeah. That is heartbreaking, really. And I think, I mean, it's we have to go against human nature a bit of with that
Yep.
thought process. I'm sure there are limiting beliefs because I've done a lot around money psychology
Yep.
and courses, classwork, assignments, stuff like that. I've been studying this for a while, but I know that there's still those hidden beliefs within me that we don't do that.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
I guess like
Absolutely.
there's things, it's almost like a challenge in thinking bigger.
Yeah. Which is hard.
That's something, yeah, I definitely have admitted to struggling with, like even bigger,
Yep.
right? There's like a big level, and then there's this weird ceiling that
Yep.
I almost don't even know
Oh yeah.
what it would be on the other side.
Yep.
So anyways, enough
That's
about
fine.
me.
Yeah.
This isn't about me.
I get it. I get it.
Yeah. That's interesting. I love that. I love that you know that and you're sharing that with us, and that you're passionate about helping people. And that is throughout this whole episode, this whole interview, it's very clear how passionate you are to help people. There's a lot of opportunities where you could have
Mhm.
maybe made more money, but you chose to help people. And
Yeah.
I think your path is going to be blessed because of it,
Mm.
right? The more people you help, the more money you make, the more
Oh,
opportunities come
100%.
your way,
Yep.
right? It's the giving and getting principle. So
Oh
thank
yeah.
you so much for coming on here. Last question is, where can people get in touch with you, follow you, bump your followers on Instagram
Yeah.
higher than 10,000?
Yes.
Where, well,
Yeah. Instagram is probably the
tell us
number
that.
one place. Instagram, I'm most active. It's just my first and last name at Austin Lagrusa. If you really want to help me, I've been told by our strategist that I need to grow my TikTok. So
Oh,
go find me on TikTok, Austin Lagrusa. I try to keep it simple. It's just my first and last name. But Instagram, I'm most active there. TikTok, I'm starting to post content. It's just, man, I'm having a really hard time. It's a lot of work. Social media is a lot of work. But
yes.
those two things, those two platforms, you can find me most active. And I always check all the DMs and the messages, even the spam folders. I'm always checking just to make sure I don't miss anyone. So yeah, shoot me a message. Let me know what you're working on. If you guys need help with anything, I don't know all the answers, but I know some. So the ones I do know, absolutely will help you with. And if I don't know it, I'm going to ask Alana. She'll help you with it.
Yeah, obviously I'm a know-it-all. Just kidding. Thank you so much, Austin. This has been so much fun. I could probably talk to you for like 2 more hours, but I have to cut it off somewhere. So thank you so much. And I will see you on Instagram and maybe at a meetup soon.
Awesome. Love it. Thanks, guys.
Well, that was our interview. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it, like, subscribe, support the show for more content like this. And if you are so inclined, I'd love a 5-star review. It'll help me in the algorithm and reach more people. That would be wonderful. If you'd like to connect with the show, feel free to go to the website obsessedwithrealestateshow.com, where you can find all of the resources, all the book recommendations, links to those, as well as submit to be a guest on the show. You can find me on Instagram, follow, and reach out at AlanaGeorge_real estate. I'd love if you reached out and said hello. As well as if you are interested in syndications, my website, clearconnectioncapital.com, has a lot of information on what syndications are, why they're beneficial as real estate investments. So check that out. I will see you on the next episode.